Hello. Okay, so for Chapter 5 and considering the Hockaday case study, question 1, discuss what appear to be differing motivations for virtual team members. This chapter discussed a lot of motivational theories that people have come to find in the past. Section 5.8 also describes how a good way to be motivated when not communicating face-to-face would be using rich channels to communicate important information. When you aren't communicating face-to-face, as the team members weren't in the Hockaday case study, it kind of becomes difficult to more difficult to become motivated than it would be if you were face-to-face, because you are having to have that extra push to go out and communicate with one another and get on your own time onto your device that you're communicating with without others pushing you to do it. You have to be self-motivating and proactive about your actions when you are working with a virtual team. And that goes with the next point I was going to bring up, Campbell's theory of proactive individuals. It demonstrates an example of internal motivation that team members can have. It's often can be found in virtual teams. Employees are expected to be committed to their work and engaged in taking initiative. This is exactly what Hockaday responders expects from their team members. They are expected to do all the tasks that are asked of them when it is asked, immediately, as soon as it is needed. The Chapter 5 also talks about motivation coming from behavior, which ties this case study to the information processing theory, because the information processing theory discusses how an individual's attitude is determined by the information available at any given time. For each individual on the Hockaday responders team to be successful, they had to have access to all the update information that anyone else could have access to in the organization. This is important because like in the crisis, it took the whole organization, every team member, to be on board, fully engaged, ready to fix the problem for it to actually be solved. If there's any vital information that isn't properly communicated, it could just cause for an inefficiency in solving the problem, because the person who missed that information could be the person who could solve the problem. So question 2, how would you describe LMX in this case? LMX is described in the text as suggesting leaders have limited time, resources, and share their personal and positional resources differently with their employees. Due to varying locations and being limited to virtual communication, Hockaday faced issues that may have been easier for organizations who have been working face-to-face. Had Hockaday been all together, it might have been easier. There was little interaction and communication with supervisors as well, which is another part of the LMX theory. The CEO, Jill, she only communicated to her subordinates when she was establishing tasks and telling basically the managers what it is that she needed done. Other than that, she kind of stayed out of all the problems and was only contacted in the immediate emergency situations. Question 3, describe how peer relationships might be improved for the virtual team. The case study ends with Hockaday suggesting new features such as more regional in-person meetings every year. I'm not exactly sure how much they said. I think maybe perhaps 2 every year. And I think that this will improve the peer relationship by allowing it to become more personal. Those people that you normally are used to seeing only virtually, you could get the chance to meet face-to-face and talk about things that you may not talk about on your everyday work basis. They also could redesign how they distribute team members. based on their locations. I know they tried to kind of mix up the locations for each team group, which I think it does have value because it does bring that diversity factor, but maybe having larger groups of team members located closer could benefit, because that way they could set up meetings or lunches or something where they could get together and discuss things other than strictly task or work related issues. Okay, and question 4, discuss how technology influences the personal relationships on the virtual team. Technology acts as the only channel for the communication within this organization. Therefore, the interpersonal relationships in the virtual teams would likely differ from a team that would works face-to-face. This is because the relationship, like I said, is much more strictly work and task related. You aren't going to go on and to communicate with your team members just to talk about your day and things going on perhaps in your life. It's going to be about the task on hand and how to solve any issues that arise and completing your day-to-day activities. That is what your main concern will be, and so there likely will be no communication further than that. This differs from a normal interpersonal relationship, say in an office where you see your coworkers every day. You likely know about their relationship, about if they have children, about family issues that may be happening in their lives, because you're just so used to being around them. You have time to discuss all these other details, whereas virtual teams do not have that. So the relationships you could see are different in that manner. Okay, and then question number 5. Are there cultural influences in the virtual team which need to be understood? I think, first of all, Hockaday says they have team members located in more than one country. I believe they said it in the UK and other, perhaps in Europe. I have to look back on that. And like in the case study, when the issue arose, when there was a crisis in the major city and all team members needed to be on board to help fix the problem, there was a team member in a different country who did not speak English, and they were having trouble translating what they were trying to say into English because of the specifics of the part or some instance such as that was making it difficult to communicate. The manager had to remind him to speak English because that was the only way that they could communicate that. That's the only way that the manager could communicate, so they wanted them to be able to communicate as well. And I think that is a great example of a barrier that could arise due to cultural barriers, not cultural barriers, but due to different cultural influences in a team. And so this needs to be addressed more, I think, within the company. Perhaps if they do have a large enough base of employees in a different country, provide managers or other resources where they are able to use their native language to their advantage, because clearly if they were able to speak their native language in the crisis, perhaps they could have got it solved sooner, because it didn't have to be English for them to understand if they had someone else there that could speak their language. Sorry, made the last person confusing. So yes, I think that if they took into consideration other cultures and other languages other than English and made it available to use for those who feel more comfortable in some way, I'm not exactly how they would do that, but perhaps that could bring more motivation for those in other countries, as well as just overall improve the efficiency and communication climate of the organization. And I think that covers all of my questions. Okay, thank you.